Have you ever noticed something wrong, something everyone else missed, but stayed silent because you were afraid no one would listen? The green on that poster felt wrong. Not just off wrong in a way that made my chest tighten like a warning I couldn't name. But I wasn't supposed to say a word. I was just a shy girl who cleaned up after everyone else's brilliance. The invisible one. Rain hammered San Francisco that October night, turning every surface into a mirror. I clutched my umbrella tighter as I walked through the alley behind Revolve Tech's headquarters, a gleaming tower where billion-dollar ideas were born while I scrubbed their floors. The company's newest campaign poster glowed on the wall, bathed in streetlight. Green. Too green. The kind of green that whispers danger instead of trust. Inside those walls, people like me didn't exist. We were the night shift, the shadows, baristas at dawn, janitors by midnight. I'd learned to keep my head down after what happened at design school, after Professor Hendricks taught me that speaking up only gets you hurt. That's when I saw him. A man in a black suit soaked through, slumped against the wall like he'd run out of places to go. His phone lay beside him in a puddle screen, flashing with headlines I couldn't quite read. But I could see his face. Exhausted. Broken. The kind of broken my father looked before he stopped recognizing me. I should have kept walking. Smart people do. But something about this heartwarming impulse, the one my mother always called my blessing and my curse, made me stop. My umbrella opened wider to cover us both. "Are you okay?" His voice came out hoarse, defeated. "I'm fine. Go home." But he wasn't fine. Water dripped from his hair. When he looked up at me, I saw the same emptiness I used to see in my own mirror. "You don't even know me," he whispered. "Maybe not, but you look like someone who needs kindness tonight." His hand trembled when it reached for mine. As I helped him stand, the green-tinted poster light washed over us both, casting strange shadows. I didn't know I was holding the hand of Sutton Cole, the CEO, whose face was all over the news. The man accused of betraying his own company. I didn't know this would become the most inspirational night of both our lives. That night, a shy girl stopped for a stranger and saved a man who'd lost everything. But who was really saving whom? 3 weeks earlier, Sutton Cole had everything. A billion-dollar company. Claire, his fiancée, who smiled in all the right photos. Marcus, his best friend, who knew every password to his life. Then they stole the prototype for Revolve's new interface technology, sold it to Quantum Industries, and fed the media a story painting Sutton as the thief. The board called emergency meetings. Shareholders demanded answers. Reporters camped outside his door. Sutton stopped sleeping, stopped trusting, started wondering if anyone had ever really seen him as more than a means to an end. That night in the rain, when I helped him inside through the back entrance, he didn't explain any of this. He just whispered, "Thank you," like the words physically hurt, then disappeared into the stairwell. Helen was waiting by the elevators with that knowing look. At 62, with silver hair and eyes that saw through walls, she'd witnessed enough human nature to fill libraries. Former art teacher fired for exposing corruption. Now she worked nights collecting stories about invisible people like us. That was kind Lily. He looked lost. The lost ones are usually the ones who see us clearest. Remember that. Morning came too fast. I was wiping executive floor windows when I spotted him again, Sutton Cole in daylight, composed now, guarded, wearing his power like armor. But his eyes still held that hollow exhaustion as he spoke with his leadership team through the glass-walled conference room. I turned back to my work, stayed invisible, did my job. During my break, my hands found my sketch pad, the one from art school, back when I still believed my ideas mattered. A napkin became my canvas. I redesigned Revolve's logo, softening the edges, warming the colors. Not because anyone would see it, just because creation was the only thing that still felt like mine. "You're not just a cleaner, are you?" I nearly dropped my pencil. Sutton stood in the doorway, coffee in hand, studying my sketch with startling intensity. "I studied design once," I stammered. "But I wasn't good enough." He picked up the napkin, angling it toward the light. "Who told you that, Professor Hendricks?" Leaning too close, his breath sour. "Your portfolio is amateurish, Lily. Maybe you should focus on being helpful in other ways." His hand on my shoulder. The way every design firm in the city suddenly knew I was difficult after I reported his behavior. "Someone who had power over my future," I said quietly. Sutton set the napkin down with unexpected care. "They were wrong. You just need someone to see it." Helen appeared with her rounds clipboard, smiling warmly. "Some people are born to create, Lily, not to clean up others' messes." She glanced meaningfully at Sutton. "Both kinds of messes." He looked uncomfortable. I should get back. But as he walked away, he glanced back. Just once, and something shifted in the space between invisible and seen. For days after our paths crossed in small ways, him lingering near the design floor when I cleaned, me finding reasons to organize supplies near his office, Helen watching it all like she was witnessing the opening chapter of an inspirational story she'd already read. Then the leak happened. Someone recorded security footage from the night I'd helped Sutton inside. Someone sent it to every news outlet with a twisted narrative: embattled CEO sneaks into company after hours with mysterious woman. My phone exploded. Reporters found my cafe, my apartment. My manager pulled me aside, worried. "Lily, honey, are you involved with that CEO?" "No, I just helped him. That's all." But that's all wasn't enough. By noon, I was in Revolve's HR office, facing a woman with sharp questions that felt like accusations. Did I know who he was? Had he paid me? Was I part of the scheme? She did nothing wrong. Sutton's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stood in the doorway, jaw-set eyes blazing with protective fury. "Mr. Cole, we need to protect the company's reputation. If she's fired, I walk." The HR director went pale. "Sir, that's not... I mean it. She showed me kindness when I had none left. If that's a crime here, then I don't belong here either." Silence fell like a hammer. Finally, the director nodded stiffly. "We'll continue this later." I stumbled into the hallway, legs shaking. Sutton followed. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." His eyes held something new: recognition, respect. "You saw me as human when everyone else saw headlines. That matters more than you know." Helen appeared around the corner, arms crossed, expression fierce. "The girl's got more courage in her pinky than most executives have in their whole bodies. Anyone with eyes can see that." Sutton nodded slowly. "I'm beginning to." But what none of us knew was that the real betrayal was still hiding in plain sight, wearing expensive perfume and rehearsed sympathy. And she was about to strike. 3 nights later, I couldn't sleep. That green poster haunted me. The color was wrong, but why did it bother me so deeply? I pulled up Revolve's website on my phone, scrolled through branding guidelines, press releases, product launches. Then I saw it. The original logo from 2 years ago. Warm colors, trustworthy, inviting. Exactly what a tech company trying to build consumer loyalty would need. But the current logo was cold, hostile, almost predatory. Someone had changed it deliberately. I texted Helen. "Can you let me into the archives tomorrow night?" Her reply came instantly. "What are you looking for, sweetheart? The truth." The next evening we descended into Revolve's basement archives. Rows of filing cabinets held years of designs and strategic plans. I found the folder marked Brand Identity 2023 and spread the contents across the dusty table. There it was. Original color palette, warm, human, approachable. And beneath it, revision notes in unfamiliar handwriting. Adjust for impact. Make it sharp. Make them uneasy. Dated 3 months before Sutton's alleged betrayal went public. "Lily, look at this." Helen held up financial projections. The original design had tested beautifully with focus groups. The new one, people found it aggressive, untrustworthy. Exactly the image you'd want if you were trying to destroy a company's reputation from within. Why would someone sabotage their own company? I breathed. Unless they wanted it to fail, Helen said quietly. Unless someone stood to gain from the collapse. I photographed everything with trembling hands. When we emerged from the archives, I went straight to Sutton's office. His light still glowed. He practically lived there now, fighting to save what everyone thought he'd destroyed. I knocked. He opened the door, saw my expression. "What's wrong? Do you trust me?" He studied me for a long moment. In the weeks since the rain, something had grown between us, a fragile bridge built from small kindnesses and shared vulnerability. "I don't trust anyone anymore," he said honestly. "But I want to try." I showed him the files, watched realization dawn across his face like a terrible sunrise. "Vanessa," he said, voice cold with betrayal. "Claire's college roommate. I brought her into the company because Claire vouched for her talent." He laughed bitterly. "I've been so blind. Look at the metadata." I pulled up the timestamps on my phone. These revisions were made the same day Claire and Marcus met with Quantum Industries. His face went white. They weren't just stealing the prototype. They were destroying the brand from the inside, making us look untrustworthy so when they launched the stolen tech, people would believe we were the thieves. "It's personal," I said softly. "Someone wanted to watch you fall." He sank into his chair, and I saw that broken man from the rain again. "Why are you helping me? You barely know me." "Because you defended me when you didn't have to. Because you saw me when I was invisible." I met his eyes. "And because I know what it's like when someone with power tries to destroy you for speaking truth." Understanding flickered across his face. "Your professor?" I nodded. "He ruined my reputation because I said no. Made sure no one would hire me. So I stopped trying. Became a shy girl who hid in the shadows." I straightened my shoulders. "But you're not invisible, Sutton. You're just surrounded by people who want you to be." Something hardened in his expression, determination replacing despair. "We need proof, real proof that will hold up. Then we investigate, together." Over the next week, we became ghosts in our own building. Sutton used his CEO access to security systems. I used my invisibility people talk freely around janitors. Helen provided archived footage. Between us, we mapped every suspicious meeting, every questionable email, every financial transaction, connecting Vanessa to Claire to Quantum. The picture that emerged was horrifying in its precision. Vanessa hadn't just changed the logo. She'd been leaking proprietary information for months, feeding negative stories to the press, sabotaging product launches with subtle design flaws that made Revolve look incompetent. All while Claire and Marcus positioned themselves as victims from the outside. "We need her confession," Sutton said during one of our late-night strategy sessions. "Everything else is circumstantial. Then we make her confess." Helen frowned from her position by the door, keeping watch. Lily, these are dangerous people. They've already destroyed one man's reputation. What do you think they'll do to you? But I was tired of being afraid. Tired of letting powerful people win because good people stayed quiet. This heartwarming connection with Sutton and Helen had reminded me who I used to be before fear silenced me. I'm done hiding. We set the trap carefully. Sutton scheduled a late-night meeting with Vanessa, claiming he needed help interpreting design files related to Claire's alleged involvement. I hid in the adjacent conference room with my phone set to record. Vanessa arrived in a cloud of expensive perfume and false concern. Sutton, I'm so glad you're finally moving forward. Claire never deserved you. These files are puzzling, Sutton said, playing confused as he spread documents across the table. The color changes. Why would anyone make our brand look hostile? I watched through the glass partition as Vanessa studied the documents. Her face remained carefully neutral, but I saw the slight tightening around her eyes. Maybe Claire was trying to help in her own misguided way. Make you look stronger, more aggressive in the market. Or maybe, Sutton said quietly, his voice hardening, someone wanted me to look like a villain. Vanessa straightened her mask, beginning to slip. What are you implying? I'm implying that you're exceptionally good at your job, Vanessa. These design changes are masterful, subtle enough to go unnoticed by most people, but damaging enough to shift public perception over time. He paused deliberately. How much did Quantum pay you? The mask shattered. You can't prove anything, she hissed. Actually, we can. Sutton gestured to where I stood, visible through the glass phone held up. Every word, recorded. Vanessa's face transformed white with shock, then red with rage, then cold as winter ice. You used the cleaning girl. How desperate. How pathetic. Her name is Lily, Sutton said firmly. And she's smarter than everyone in this building who thought she didn't matter. Vanessa lunged, fast and vicious. Suddenly, I was stumbling backward into filing cabinets, her nails scraping for my phone, her breath hot with fury. The door burst open. Helen with 2 uniformed police officers. We heard enough, Ms. Grant. But as they read Vanessa her rights, she laughed sharp and bitter like breaking glass. You think I'm the villain. You have no idea what Claire planned. What she's still planning. Sutton froze. What are you talking about? The prototype theft that was just the opening act. Vanessa's smile was poisonous. Claire knew you'd eventually clear your name. She's counting on it. The real theft happens at next week's shareholder meeting. 40 million in company assets moving through a shell corporation while everyone's focused on your redemption. By the time anyone notices, she'll be unreachable. And just like that, we realized we'd only caught half the conspiracy. After they took Vanessa away in handcuffs, Sutton and I sat in the empty conference room, trying to process the magnitude of what we'd just learned. Why would she tell us? I asked, still shaking from the physical confrontation. Because, Helen said from the doorway, her voice weary with the wisdom of years. Claire threw her under the bus the moment things got complicated. And there's nothing more dangerous than an accomplice who's been abandoned. Sutton ran his hands through his hair, exhaustion and determination warring on his face. 40 million. Moving through a shell corporation during the shareholder meeting while everyone's distracted by my vindication. It's brilliant, I admitted quietly. Cruel, but brilliant. I loved her, Sutton said, voice hollow with old pain. Claire, I thought we were building something together. A future. A partnership. You were building something, I said gently. She was just building something entirely different. He looked at me, then really looked, and I felt the weight of his pain and confusion. How did you know to trust me after what your professor did after you learned that powerful people can destroy you? How did you let anyone close again? I thought about that night in the rain. The way he'd said thank you like kindness was a foreign language he'd forgotten how to speak, like he'd forgotten he deserved it. People who fake goodness don't struggle with it that hard, I said softly. You said thank you like it hurt, like you'd forgotten how to accept help without suspicion. I met his eyes. That felt real. That felt human. He smiled, small, sad, genuine. You saw me. You saw me first. The moment stretched between us, fragile and enormous. Then Helen cleared her throat meaningfully. If you two are done having a moment, we have a financial crime to prevent and approximately 5 days to do it. The next 5 days blurred into organized chaos. Sutton brought in forensic accountants he trusted. I helped Helen cross-reference security footage with financial transactions looking for patterns. We tracked Claire's digital footprint across 3 continents, following money trails like breadcrumbs through a dark forest. She'd been brilliant in her deception. Shell corporations had multiple layers of protection. Transfers were timed to look like normal business operations. If Vanessa hadn't revealed the plan out of spite, Claire would have succeeded completely. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated the shy girl who cleaned floors. I found it at 2 a.m, my eyes burning from screen fatigue and too much coffee. A design file buried deep in Revolve's shared drive dated the week before the betrayal went public. A complete mock-up for Quantum Industries' new product launch, created using Revolve's proprietary design software with metadata showing it was made on Claire's personal laptop. She created the fake evidence herself. I breathed my voice, breaking the silence of the empty office. She designed the very prototype she claimed Marcus stole, then blamed you for the theft. Sutton looked over my shoulder, his proximity making my heart race despite the gravity of the situation. How did no one catch this before? Because no one looks at the designer's metadata, I said. Designers are invisible, remember. We're just the people who make things pretty. I turned to face him. But invisible people see everything. We have to. It's how we survive. He cupped my face gently, his touch warm and grounding. Lily, you're the furthest thing from invisible. You're the most real person I've ever known. My heart did something complicated. We should focus on, I know. I just needed you to hear it. To know that I see you, all of you. Your brilliance, your courage, your kindness. His voice dropped. Everything. The day of the shareholder meeting arrived like an approaching storm. Media trucks lined the streets. Investors filed into Revolve's main auditorium, their faces skeptical and hungry for answers. The board had given Sutton 30 minutes to explain himself or step down permanently. I sat in the back row with Helen, my hands shaking despite my determination. Vanessa sat up front with her lawyer already working on a plea deal. Claire was supposedly in London for business, but we knew better. She was waiting, watching, ready to move the money the moment Sutton was ousted. Sutton took the stage. He looked tired, older than his 34 years, but there was something solid in him now. Something that hadn't been there before our nights of investigation and shared determination. 6 months ago, I was betrayed by people I loved. He began, his voice steady and clear. I was accused of crimes I didn't commit, and I nearly let it destroy me completely. He paused, his eyes finding mine across the crowded room. But someone showed me that truth doesn't need power to survive. It just needs people brave enough to speak it. The screen behind him lit up with evidence. First came the design files, metadata, Claire's digital signature on every piece of supposedly stolen work. Then the financial records, Shell corporations traced back to Claire's family trust. $40 million staged for transfer in exactly 16 minutes. Finally, the recording. Vanessa's confession crystal clear and damning. The room erupted. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions. But Sutton raised his hand, commanding silence. "I'm not here for personal vindication," he said, his voice carrying over the chaos. "I'm here to say this company was almost destroyed, not by one person's greed, but by a culture that made certain people invisible. That dismissed voices because they came from the wrong position or the wrong background." His gaze locked on mine. "The person who saved Revolve isn't an executive. She's a designer. A woman who cleans our floors at night because someone with power once told her she wasn't good enough." Every head turned. My face burned with sudden attention. Lily Parker found the evidence everyone else missed. She risked her safety and her job. She trusted me when she had every reason not to. His voice filled with emotion. She reminded me that power isn't about who has the biggest office or the most impressive title. It's about having the courage to see truth and speak it no matter the cost. The board chair stood clearly uncomfortable with this direction. "Mr. Cole, are we to understand that a janitor solved this case?" "No," Sutton said firmly, his voice ringing with conviction. "A brilliant designer who was never given a fair chance solved this case, because someone finally saw her worth, because she refused to stay silent when it mattered most." "Pizza," Helen squeezed my hand as tears streamed down my face. This was the most inspirational moment of my entire life. The police arrested Claire at her hotel within the hour. The board voted unanimously to reinstate Sutton with full authority. Quantum Industries faced a massive lawsuit. Marcus turned state's evidence to avoid prison. And me, I sat in that back row, trembling and crying as investors approached to shake my hand like I was someone who mattered, like my voice had value. Because suddenly, impossibly, it did. But the greatest surprise was still waiting upstairs. After the meeting ended and the crowd dispersed, I found myself alone in the hallway, back against the wall, trying to remember how to breathe normally. That was, I started, then couldn't finish. Overwhelming, I know. Sutton stood beside me, close enough to feel his warmth. "I'm sorry. I should have asked permission before putting you in the spotlight like that." "No." I looked at him, seeing him clearly. "Thank you. For seeing me. For making them see me. For believing I was worth defending." He took my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine naturally. "Come upstairs with me, please. There's something I want to show you." He led me to the top floor past his office to a space I'd only ever cleaned. The design studio. Wall-to-wall windows overlooking San Francisco's glittering skyline. Equipment worth more than my yearly salary. Empty desks waiting for creative minds. "I want to offer you something," Sutton said quietly. "Not just a job. Lead designer. Building the complete rebrand. Making Revolve into something honest and trustworthy again." My throat closed with emotion. "Sutton, I can't. I'm not ready." "Before you say no." He pulled out a folder from his desk. Inside were my sketches, the napkin from the break room, drawings I'd left in my locker, doodles from breaks. I thought no one noticed. "Helen's been collecting these. She said you throw them away after every shift because you don't believe they're worth keeping." I stared at my own work with new eyes. The lines were clean. The concepts were strong and innovative. The girl who'd drawn these wasn't talentless. She was terrified of being seen. "I'm not ready," I whispered. "What if I fail? What if they were right about me?" "Neither was I ready the night you found me in the rain. I was broken, defeated, ready to give up everything." He stepped closer. You gave me kindness anyway. You believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. His voice softened. Let me give you a chance. Not because you saved my company, because you deserve it, because your voice, your vision matters deeply. I thought about Professor Hendricks, about every closed door, about years spent believing the lie that I wasn't good enough. Then I thought about Sutton defending me in that HR office, Helen collecting my art like treasures, the way investors had looked at me today, not through me, but at me, seeing me. Okay, I breathed. Yes, I'll try. His smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. There's one more thing. Will you let me take you to dinner, not as your boss, as the guy whose life you saved, as someone who wants to know everything about you? You don't owe me, Lily. He took both my hands in his. I'm not asking out of obligation or gratitude. I'm asking because when I look at you, I see someone who makes me want to be better, kinder, more honest, more aware of the people around me. His voice dropped. Someone who makes me believe in trust again, in people, in possibility, in myself. My heart was racing. This is probably against every HR policy in existence. Good thing I'm the CEO. His eyes sparkled with the first real humor I'd seen. So dinner somewhere casual. One condition, somewhere that doesn't require heels. I spend enough time on my feet. Deal. How about that cafe where you work? I've developed a taste for bitter coffee. I laughed a real full laugh that echoed in the empty studio and released months of tension. You're terrible. I'm patient, and I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. We stood in the golden light of sunset, two people who'd saved each other in different ways. Outside the city sparkled with possibility. Inside, something new and fragile and real was beginning. Helen appeared in the doorway, grinning like she'd won a substantial bet. I always said you two would figure it out. Now stop making eyes at each other and come celebrate. I bought champagne. The cheap stuff, but it's the thought that counts. You knew, I asked, laughing through happy tears. Sweetheart, I'm a night security guard who used to teach high school art. I see everything. She winked conspiratorially. Plus, the way he's been looking at you since that rainy night, a blind woman could read that story from across the street. Sutton's ears turned red. I bit back a smile, feeling lighter than I had in years. Come on, Helen said warmly. Before the press finds you again, they're still circling outside like sharks. As we followed her toward the elevators, Sutton caught my hand again, his touch gentle and sure. Hey, he said softly. That green poster that bothered you, the first night we met. Yeah, you were right. It was wrong. I had it changed this morning to your design. His smile was tender. The warm one. The one that feels like trust and hope. It's perfect. You're perfect. And just like that, I understood. The shy girl who'd been invisible was finally being seen, not for saving a company, but for trusting her own eyes when everyone else had taught her to doubt them. Sometimes the smallest voice speaks the loudest truth. 1 year later. Revolve Tech's new headquarters opened with a ribbon-cutting ceremony that made national news. Not for the building, though it was beautiful, all light and open space, but for what it represented. A company rebuilt on truth and transparency. I stood on the rooftop terrace at sunset watching colors I'd once been afraid to use paint the sky in bold strokes. Too vibrant, too warm, too much. Now they were everywhere in Revolve's rebranding and our product designs in the very soul of this place. The new logo glowed on the glass facade. Not cold green, but a gradient of warm golds and soft blues. Trustworthy, human, real. Still bitter, Sutton said, appearing beside me with 2 steaming coffees. But warmer than your first attempt a year ago. I took the cup, our fingers brushing deliberately. That's because you were soaked and hypothermic last time. Extremely low bar for comparison. His laugh was easy now, unguarded. The haunted look had faded, completely replaced by peace and contentment. That rain saved me from myself, from giving up. It was just rain. No. He set down his coffee and turned to face me fully. It was you, standing in it, offering your umbrella to a broken stranger who didn't deserve kindness, but needed it desperately. Everyone deserves kindness. See, that's why I love you. The words hung in the air between us. My breath caught. I know it's only been a year. He continued, looking suddenly vulnerable. I know we should probably wait longer, but I've spent enough of my life pretending to feel things I didn't, and I'm done pretending. His voice filled with emotion. I love you, Lily Parker. I love your courage and your kindness and the way you see colors that no one else sees. I love that you made me believe in people again, in myself, in us. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I love you too. I think I have since that first night when you looked at me like I was real, like I mattered. He pulled me close, and we stood wrapped in each other as the city lights began to sparkle below. Light rain started falling, soft, gentle, nothing like that torrential first night. This was a heartwarming rain, the kind that felt like blessing. We're getting wet, I murmured against his chest. I don't care. Do you? Not even a little. Below us I heard voices. The new design interns were arriving for their evening workshop, young people like I'd been. Talented, uncertain, hungry for someone to believe in them. Go teach them, Sutton said, kissing my forehead tenderly. I'll wait right here. Always. I descended to the studio where 12 faces looked at me with a mixture of hope and doubt. I recognized that look intimately. I'd worn it for years. I'm Lily, I said warmly. I want you to know something important. You belong here. Not because you're perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because you see things, color, light, space, truth, in ways other people don't. And that matters more than you'll ever know. A girl in the back raised her hand, her voice small and uncertain. But what if we're not ready? What if we fail and prove everyone right? I thought about the rain, the green poster, the moment I chose to speak even though my voice shook with fear. Then you fail, I said gently. And then you try again and again. Because the world needs people who see what's wrong and have the courage to fix it. I smiled at her. Even when it's terrifying, especially when it's terrifying. How do you know it's worth it? Another student asked. I glanced up at the rooftop where Sutton stood silhouetted against the sunset, waiting for me with patient love. Because someone once told me I just needed someone to see my work, to see my worth. And he was right. I met their eyes, but first I had to be brave enough to let myself be seen, to trust that my voice, however quiet, deserved to be heard. We worked until stars appeared. I moved between desks, offering guidance, praising bold choices, encouraging the timid ones with the same patience Helen had shown me. At one station, a young man struggled with a color palette, frustration evident in his expression. It feels wrong, he said, but I can't figure out why. I studied his screen carefully. The green. It's too cold. Try warming it up just a few degrees. Trust your eye. Your instincts matter. He adjusted it. His face lit up with discovery. That's it. How did you see that? Practice and believing that if something feels wrong, it probably is. I smiled. Never doubt what your heart knows to be true. When the workshop ended, I found Sutton still on the terrace, waiting as promised. Rain fell gently, and we stood in it together, his arms around me, creating our own sheltered world. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly. "That I'm glad I stopped that night. For you, for us, for everything this became." He kissed me softly, rain mixing with the taste of coffee and happiness and home. "You saved my life, Lily Parker. In every way a person can be saved." "No," I whispered against his lips. "We saved each other. That's what makes it real." The rain fell softer now. The city lights blurred into watercolor beauty. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust that your voice matters. And sometimes all it takes is one moment of courage to transform everything.